So, Stephen, free trade, it's been pretty much dogma for the conservatives for forever in the U.S., at least since the mid-1990s. How do you feel about this?
Well, I am a free trader, and I do believe in Adam Smith and Milton Friedman. But I guess my response would be you can't have free trade with a country that's cheating and stealing. And look, you put it very well. For years, if not decades, China has been stealing from us. And I applaud Donald Trump. He said, you're not going to do that anymore. And if you keep doing it, we're going to continue to slap you with very punitive tariffs. And look, I think Trump believes, and I think he's right about this, that, if we have a trade war, and I don't want a trade war with China, but if we have a trade war, we sneeze and they get pneumonia. They cannot grow. China cannot grow their economy without access to the $10 trillion American consumer market.
Because this cuts both ways, and China says this is something that nobody wins. And that was going to be my next question. Stephen, I'll go back to you. If there is indeed a global trade war, is this a war that the U.S. can win?
Well, let me just say one thing about that, because I want to finish my point on it. We both lose, but China has a lot more to lose than we do. So, I think Trump is using that strategic advantage to say, look, if China reacts to this by saying, well, gee, we're not going to buy your soybeans, we're not going to buy your blue jeans. That's exactly the wrong response. They have to act responsibly. Right. They have to say, we're going to stop, stealing and cheating from you, and so on.
It's such a high-risk proposition, though. Boy, I think it was quite interesting that Lockheed Martin was standing beside the president during this. What Lockheed Martin probably gets, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but a very high percentage of its revenues from the Pentagon, which, I think that's an interesting point to draw here. When does a trade war become another kind of war? In the past, these two conflicts have been related, and I just find it very worrisome to wage this kind of high-stakes game, particularly in an administration that I don't think actually has a coherent policy around economic nationalism. And that's something I've said from the get-go. You can make an argument that in the current era, more polarized, more bifurcated, more regional, that the U.S. should have economic nationalism. You can make that argument. But if you're going to do that, you better have a coherent policy. You better not be, angering our closest neighbors, Canada and Mexico. That, we should be, if you're going to go head-to-head with China, you ought to be strengthening that alliance, not weakening it.
That's something that Ron and I think, agree on. As I think you're exactly right, Rana. For example, when the steel tariffs came out, one of the points that Larry Kudlow, who's the incoming national economic advisor for Donald Trump, and I both made to the White House is, look, direct these tariffs towards our adversaries, not our allies, because Ron is exactly right. At a time where we may be facing a trade war with China, you're exactly right. We need Canada, we need Mexico, we need England and Germany to be on our side on this. And I just want to add one other point. I do believe there's a foreign policy component to this. I think that what China has done with North Korea is simply unforgivable. And if they want to be a country that's part of the civilized society, Rana, they should, Trump should say, shut down the nuclear program in North Korea. If you're not going to do it, you're not a civilized country.
All right, Rana, Stephen, look, thank you very much. There is one thing I want to point out, though, just before we leave this conversation. Yes. This is a tweet by Donald Trump, and you have to give him credit for at least consistency. He says, as a candidate, I pledge that if elected... No, hold on. Yeah, listen to this. I pledge that if elected, I would use every lawful tool to combat unfair trade, protect American workers, and defend our national security. Today, we took another critical step to fulfill that commitment. I'm not making a point of, of being for or against these tariffs. I'm making a point that the candidate said it, the president is doing it. We'll get to talk about this again. Ron and Stephen, I appreciate you coming on the show. Thanks.